two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur, where I am here with Boris, and my name is Dave, and we are going to go on about director Stephen R. Monroe's 2010 remake of I Spit on Your Grave, or otherwise known as Day of the Woman. And this is Anchor Bay's copy of the film. And there was definitely a resurgence of the backwoods I Spit on Your Grave franchise because of this originally 1978-79 film. And let me just tell you exactly what IMDb says about this film.
Okay.
So, a writer who is brutalized during her cabin retreat seeks revenge on her attackers who left her for dead. So, what were your first impressions of that trailer, and what were the first impressions of the film? To be honest, it's been a while since we delved into this franchise. What do you think, Boris?
Well, uh, as far as the trailer goes, I would say it's fairly consistent with the atmosphere of the movie, and the only thing I noticed is it contains this part where she supposedly confessing what she did, which never happened in the movie, so I don't see the point of that, but okay. Aside from that, well, speaking of the movie itself, it was very brutal. I must say, as much experience as I have with the horror genre, there were a few moments when I had to look away when it looked when things got a bit too real for me, and I would say maybe some people would disagree with me, but actually, this is one of those cases when I think the remake is better than the original. Although I have some things that I would do differently in this version, but maybe that's just me.
Okay. This is maybe my second time watching the film since it first came out on video in 2010. I was very much a fan of the first film, and it's not because it is about an act of rape. Yeah, my first impressions of this film is, man, did the torture devices that she devised were a lot more gruesome. The rape scenes in this particular film were not as long as and extensive as in the other one, which is kind of what made that the original film that much more gruesome in the respect of the rape act itself. In the original film, I think because it lingered on the moments that were happening to her by all four characters that were kind of up against her in this small little close-knit town. See, each one of them had their way with her in there. Whereas this one, it seems like Matthew is just a handyman instead of your local supermarket messenger. And I had at first I had a problem with the sheriff being involved, because then that like almost gives her like no options. But seeing this a second time, now I feel like it's more prevalent because in this updated version we get like she has a computer since she's a writer. So in this day and age, you've got more technology. You've got the video camera that's involved now. So you got voyeurism involved. You know, back in the 70s, they only had like certain cameras. So having a videotape is kind of a little bit different. I don't know. In some ways, I feel like this film is more gruesome. In other aspects, I feel like the original captured the brutality of the rape. Not that it glorified it or anything like that. I think the film showed, the original film showed how brutal a rape can go, and I don't think a lot of people were able to handle that at that point in time. And like I said, I think all four of them in the original film had their way with her, whereas it was just Matthew and the sheriff in this particular film who seemed to have their way with her. And the rest was basically just torture and cat calls by them. Although the actual act of using a gun and a bottle on her as a victim, in the essence of having her imitate a blowjob, that's in its own a violation of itself. I mean, if you're sticking any kind of a thing in any kind of an orifice, that's that's definitely wrong, and it probably feels wrong, because you're violated on all kinds of levels. And I mean that one dude, he was just flicking matchsticks on her like crazy. I don't know. What do you think about Jennifer Hills as a character?
Well, I must say I have mixed feelings about the character. As far as the actress goes, I would say she looked a bit better than the previous one, although the previous one was okay as well, but this one looked better. Now, as far as the character goes, well, I guess at first she was easy to sympathize with, but by the end of the movie, she did one thing that made me question her morality, to put it that way. Well, I absolutely understand the revenge for what was done to her. There was one thing that I couldn't approve of. Well, spoiler alert. I'm talking about the situation with the sheriff's daughter.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had a glitch. What did you say?
I said okay.
I had a sound glitch. Oh, yeah. So there is this one scene near the end when she poses as a new teacher of the sheriff's daughter, and she takes the girl somewhere we don't see where, and then when she captures the sheriff before killing him, she kind of implies that she may have hurt or even killed a girl. What may or may not be true. Maybe she did nothing to her, but maybe she did. We don't get to know exactly what she did with her, and I kind of had a problem with that scene because hurting the innocent is where I draw the line. Like, no matter what someone has done to you, you can punish them without hurting someone who did nothing wrong. And if something to that girl, that would make her character beyond redemption, in my opinion.
Oh, Jennifer Hills. You. So, did you feel differently about this particular Jennifer Hills as opposed to the original Jennifer Hills because of how much she did against her attackers?
Not for how much he did against the attackers. Actually, I think the attackers pretty much deserved what they got, but like I said, we had another glitch. I think my internet connection may be malfunctioning, so maybe not everything I said was heard clearly. But I said what she did to the attackers was okay. Well, it was gruesome to watch, and like I said, there were moments when I had to look away from the screen. But yeah, they pretty much deserved what they got. I just have a problem with what was implied about the little girl who did nothing wrong, and maybe she got killed, maybe not. If at least we saw a scene where we see that the girl was okay in the end, then I wouldn't mind the whole thing. But the idea that she maybe killed the girl and we don't get to know if she did or not, that makes her character a bit questionable to me.
Okay. Well, let's look at the basic plot here. So, for the most part, it does follow the original storyline. Jennifer Hills, who is played by Sarah Butler, who is a character from Horror, which is a sci-fi a movie, I believe. She played a character called Eva there. Um, and she's mostly a television actor or actress. And so this is technically her second or third role. And she plays the character of Jennifer Hills, who is a writer who wants to get away to write like her debut novel or whatnot. And so one thing that I think is kind of introduced here is a new character, which is a person that she goes to pick up the keys to go to this place that appears to be out on some Mockingbird Lane Road or whatnot, and she doesn't exactly know her way. So he gives her a map, and she goes out to this place. But on the way, she ends up running into a gas station where these three characters are, one of them being Johnny. And Johnny appears to be the main service dude at this gas station. It doesn't even look like this gas station has a name on it. Johnny, he is played by Jeff Branson. And Jeff Branson, he's been in quite a few things. He was in Shaft. He was in Get the Hell Out of Heaven, a short film. He was in Wolves of Wall Street. He played Tyler there. He was also on All My Children for quite a bit. That was a television soap opera as Jonathan Lavery. And Guiding Light as Shane Lewis for quite a bit before he was even on I Spit on Your Grave. But he plays like the ringleader of this group of young men who apparently are a couple of low small town hicks who end up going fishing with each other. And Matthew apparently is the town disabled character, person with a disability. I don't want to say retard because that's kind of a derogatory word. I don't really want to call a person that, especially since especially since I myself have a disability and I didn't like the word either. But they like to call him that particular word.
Yeah, they use that word in the movie.
Apparently, his role has changed in here. What do you think about Matthew?
Well, I guess in this version he was a bit less innocent than in the original. In the original, they put more emphasis on the fact that he was mentally disabled, and the other three characters really forced him into doing what he did, and he never wanted to do it. In the original, they also said that he didn't ejaculate when they had him rape the woman. And there was also that one scene in the original when they sent him to kill her, and he just stained the knife in her blood, and he decided to spare her life. In the original, I felt somewhat more sorry for him because regarding the fact that he saved her life, maybe she shouldn't have killed him. But in this version, they portrayed him a bit differently. There was no scene when he saved her life, and he actually did ejaculate while raping her. So that makes him less sympathetic than in the original version. Although there is still the fact that he is mentally disabled, and the other characters still kind of forced him to do what he did. So I still felt a little bit sorry for him, but probably not as much as in the original.
Well, yeah, it's unfortunate that his typecast kind of a character gets forced into this kind of a situation where it could happen in any small town. It could happen in any off-road road country where there's just a slower kind of a mentality in certain people. And Matthew was just a few short brain turds away from being smarter than the rest of them. But that being said, I did feel sorry for him at least a little bit, because you get to see that, you know, maybe he hasn't had that much female characters around him to even know what kind of social cues to be friendly or not be friendly with, and to not know some of these clues and have these type of friends. Well, I wouldn't even consider them friends if they want to force him into these kind of habits. But evidently, he had already had a conversation with some of the boys about how apparently he came over and fixed her faucet at the place to get the water running right, and she up and left and gave him a kiss on the mouth and stuff like that. So I guess he thought that she was really cool, and in all honesty, he was just being honest to the boys when they were out. I guess shooting the shit and talking about fishing. And the other thing that's a little different is the conversation that the boys were having while they were shooting the shit with each other. Because even though I remember that they were talking about, how city girls were like, I think that you got a little bit more of a sense of what kind of a character Johnny was in the original film, because I think you kind of got a little bit of a backstory, like maybe he had been in some kind of a war or something like that, like in the original film. Trying to remember.
I kind of don't remember that.
But what did you think about Johnny and Stanley and their friend there as we were starting to, I guess, get to know them? Because apparently when she came by the gas station, do you think that Jennifer was at all in any way flirtatious towards Johnny there at the gas station before she headed out to the cabin?
Well, no, I didn't really get that impression myself. And yeah, well, they were they were as awful as they were intended to be, I guess. I mean, they are rapists. It's not like there can or should be much to make them seem redeemable or anything. They're just assholes who eventually got what they deserved.
Well, I think because she evidently spilled that bucket on him, they were making fun of him while they were shooting the shit a little bit, and that's when he came back with that commentary that I could get her if I really wanted to. You think that she's just that kind of city bitch, and that I couldn't get her anytime I wanted to? So, in a sense, his buddies were kind of goading him a little bit.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear much of what you said because my internet connection seems really bad. I have to go and reset my router. I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, what I was saying was basically, I think and feel like there was a moment where his buddies were goading him, ladies and gentlemen, and I feel like it was like something on his manhood that he had to get up and do something about it and show that he was like the man, And that's pretty much what I was trying to say. Basically, that you know, they were saying that he he didn't have a chance with her. So, um, as far as my feelings about Matthew, I feel like it was definitely a change for Matthew's character. Um, because in the original film, Matthew was called upon by Jennifer Hills to bring groceries to the abandoned place. And in here, she already had her goods or whatnot already there. It looks like they didn't even have that kind of a service, at least in this present day and age. So she ended up needing some help with, I guess, the water or whatnot. And he was just like the local handyman. And yeah. So while we're waiting for Boris to come back here, I figured I'd go into a little bit more of my viewpoint on this. As far as a remake goes, it was pretty decent. I do think that Sarah Butler got the part down correctly. I mean, she was very friendly in the very beginning of the movie. In the original film, supposedly because she wore a dress and her legs were exposed, that's part of the reason why the boys went after her and attacked her the way they did. Hey, Boris.
Hello. Hey, I'm sorry for disappearing. My internet connection was really bad, and I wasn't able to distinguish much of what you were saying because my audio was glitching a lot. So I went downstairs and reset my router. So I hope it will work better now. Apologies to everyone who is watching this.
That's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know anything about Boris, he's all the way in Croatia. So we're obviously going to have audio technicalities from time to time. And
Yeah.
I'm putting my headphones back in just for that reason. So, but can you hear me better?
Now I can. Let's hope it stays that way.
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on the initial attack? Here's the general basis. So Jennifer Hills, she appears once before the local boys in town, and after a little bit of a talking to with each other, they apparently not only goad Johnny into, going out and doing this attacking. Apparently, one of them actually has a video camera and has actually voyeured her a little bit in her underwear. And so not only that are they building themselves up for this attack, they have already, without her knowing, already attacked her in a sense, because if you videotape someone doing something without their knowing, that's a violation too.
Indeed.
That's like those people who go around with periscopes, putting them up women's dresses and shit like that. You know.
Yeah. Well,
What do you think about this whole videotaping scenario, where we actually we don't see who is videotaping, but we see
well,
someone videotaping her in her underwear? What do you think about that? Do you think that's wrong?
well, yeah, it is, and later on it's revealed which one it was. It was that guy Stanley who was recording her. And yeah, that definitely makes them all seem more determined to do what they ended up doing. From what I remember in the first movie, it felt a bit more spontaneous, like something they decided to do in the spur of the moment. Unless I remember it wrongly, I apologize if I do. It's been a while since I saw the original. But yeah, in this one, it really gave the impression that they were really planning to do what they were doing. So that made them seem somewhat more sinister than the original characters.
Well, and I thought it was kind of interesting that they started the attack with a dead bird
Uh,
on the doorstep, and noises outside of the place before you actually got them coming into the a place, and which made it more of a home invasion, uh, which, for all intents and purposes, it does start out as a home invasion, at least in this aspect. What do
um,
you think?
Actually, yeah, it does. In the original, from what I remember, she was outside when they attacked her for the first time. And then when she came home, then they attacked her again. Here, she had only one encounter with them. And actually, I like you said before, I really like the fact that the actual rape scenes didn't get so much screen time in this version as they did in the original, because in the original the rape was really painful to watch. So I'm glad they shortened it in this version.
In a
Uh,
sense, when I first saw this film, um, I had a problem with them not extending it a bit. But after seeing it the second time, now that I can see that the focus is more on the drawn out torture aspect of the um a whole scenario. It's not about the rape itself. It's about the drama before and the drama afterwards. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, I feel like them playing with her and taunting her and flicking those matchsticks on her and trying to get her to drink something, and them just toying with her while they're in that place at that particular time. What do you think? Do you think that it seemed to be more about the buildup of the playing around before?
uh, Actually, yes, I think that adds some suspense to the movie, especially if you're watching it for the first time, if you're not familiar with the original, and if you don't know what's going to happen, then this part where they are playing with her and taunting her and so on, it adds some suspense to the movie, because if you don't already know that she's going to get raped, then you find yourself thinking if they will rape her or if she will manage to save herself. So if you don't know any spoilers, then that really works as a thriller aspect of the movie, to put it that way. And yeah, like I said, by adding those scenes, they shortened the actual rape scenes, which makes that part more suspenseful, yet at the same time less painful to watch. So yeah.
Well, and they interjected some dialogue about horses in their whole taunting um, dialogue, where he wanted her to bare her teeth so that he could see her teeth, and he offered her sugar cubes as if she were a horse, and things of that nature. What do you think about that particular dialogue, treating her as if she were a stable horse?
Well, actually, I must say I was wondering if that had any particular meaning. I must say I didn't really understand why they would compare her to a horse in particular. Maybe it has to do with the fact that I'm not a native English speaker. Maybe it has some non-literal meaning that I failed to understand, but yeah, it didn't make much sense to me.
Okay. Well, as far as I can see about the characters here, we I get a sense that they don't think that much of females to begin with, the opposite sex. Um, so, I mean, this whole country kind of grew up on the sense that women are to be seen and not heard, uh, which this is a man's world kind of a thing. Not that I believe that in any sense of the word. I have more respect for um, the opposite sex. um,
Of course.
but in every sense of the word, these boys are in a town that probably hasn't seen much of society. So in all God's honesty, they probably haven't seen much of the fairer sex in their town. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people around, and these boys like are in the backwoods of bumfuck Egypt. So uh, the fact that they are comparing her to a mare, a horse, isn't that far fetched to me, because then they're treating her like stock, like she's property, like she is now their property.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what they were trying to say. Like I said, I didn't originally understand the point of the whole horse thing.
Well, now if you look at it from that sense, what do you think?
Uh, well, when you put it that way, yeah, maybe that was what they were trying to say, especially since there were quite several dialogue lines where they were saying things about the people from the city, like they seemed to hate people from the city for some reason they didn't actually disclose, from what I remember.
And ultimately, when she escaped from them, she ran into the woods, and then she ran straight into another man with that man that she had gotten the keys from the place from. And he showed her that he had a badge and that he was a sheriff. So she trusted him when he said that he was going to take her back to the cabin and situate situation out. What do you think about this whole other character that was added? Um, does it bring a whole nother level into the film than it did
Uh,
before?
Actually, yes, yes, it does, at least in my opinion, because then if the movie is watched by someone who did see the original, this would give them something new after all, something they won't really know what to expect from, and something they cannot predict exactly how it's going to end. I personally was surprised when I realized the sheriff was actually on the bad guy's side. One issue I had with that scene was that when she ran away and she ran into the sheriff and the guy with the keys, that she was willing to go back to that cabin. If I was her, I would just ask her to get me the hell out of there. I would just want to leave that place and make sure to never run into those guys again. I think it was a bit illogical that she was willing to return to that place at all.
But then again, she hadn't come up against an authority figure that was wearing a badge, which is supposedly someone you're supposed to be able to trust. Um, if he hadn't acted the way that he did, like all concerned and said, maybe I would say, hey, let's get out of the Dodge. But um, having not met him as a character before, she probably just figured he was a lawman, and he would take care of it, and
Um,
he was someone that she could go to. Well,
yeah, I do understand why she thought she could trust him, but even if he wasn't a bad guy, if I was her, I probably wouldn't want to stay at that place after having such an encounter with someone.
having come such a long way to get out of society and to have the have all of my stuff sitting there still at the place that I had stuck it at. Yeah, maybe, but first of all, I'd have to have kind of a plan. So, I mean, her car was already back at the place. She really was in the backwoods of, we don't really know where. So I
Yeah, I
think
guess.
going with the option that she had on the table at the moment was probably her best bet at that moment. I mean, how could she get back into her car not knowing where the other guys were at that point in time, and her keys could be back at the place